Go over 6 things that you should do to be on your way to being financially independent, or at least financially secure. Just as a disclaimer, you don't have to do these things. These are just recommendations. Usually what I do when I read books or watch a bunch of YouTube videos, I take a little bit from what people say, or I investigate or I research more about it, and then I incorporate what I want to incorporate into my life, what makes sense for me. At the end of the day, I can't really tell you what to do with your money. It's you who has to choose where you want to spend it or where you want to save or invest it. Because all of us have different values, all of us have different family sizes, different healthcare needs, medical needs. We all have different goals. So these are just very general things that I think you should at least think about when becoming financially secure. Number one, let me pull it up. So number one, it's estimated that about 14 million Americans don't have a bank. I highly suggest you guys get a bank because you don't want it under your bed. I think I heard this one guy had buried all his money in his backyard, and then when he dug it up, he hadn't sealed it enough, so it kind of eroded away. But anywho, make sure you have a bank to bank with. Make sure you have a bank, because I remember my sister, she got rid of her bank because they kept charging her $12 just for having it stored in an account, and she didn't have a bank for years, and she would have to take her check from her job and go cash it and pay to cash her check. So I feel like that's more common than we think, especially with like our parents or some relatives that we may have. Just make sure to have a good bank. I recommend online banks, but a lot of the times for online banks, you have to have your account linked to a brick and mortar bank. So at that point, you could look into credit unions. A lot of them don't charge for having multiple accounts open. And I also have Bank of America. I've had that account since I was 16. I like the fact that there's ATMs everywhere. And while it is a big corporate bank, I don't pay for the checking account that I have with them because I have direct deposit, and they don't charge for that. At the end of the day, the banks should really not charge you anything to keep your money with them, because they use your money that you put in with them, they use it as leverage, kind of like loan it out to other people while you're not using it, and they charge those other people higher interest rates and they make money off of it. So you're helping them, you're giving them money so that they can therefore make more money. And they shouldn't charge you anything at all for that convenience. If anything, they should be paying you. They kind of do with like savings interest rates, right, whatever, but right now they're very low. So just make sure to have a good bank, and on top of that, make sure that they're not charging you any money. And if you have the Wells Fargo account, I highly recommend you run. Don't walk, run, and put your money elsewhere. Oh, and one more thing, with bank accounts, make sure you add on a beneficiary. Usually what they want is the name, date of birth, and address of the beneficiary. So if like you passed away, it's easier for them to give those people the money. I really do not, I hate the fact, or I hate just thinking about like passing away unexpectedly and then the bank giving my family a hard time to get my money. So just definitely make sure that you add that on. With Bank of America, when I looked up on their website, it said that I had to make an appointment to go in and set up a beneficiary, but for some reason I couldn't find it online, which I think, I don't know. So I called them up and I had to get transferred to another person after I spoke with a regular representative, and she taught me or showed me how to do it online. And all this time, like just by Googling, I would have thought that I would have had to go in to the office, but I called them and they showed me how to do it. So asking is always good. Number 2, and sorry about the lighting, I don't have one of those what are those called, ring lights? Okay, so number 2, make sure you know exactly how much you're earning and exactly how much you're spending on essential items. and discretionary items as well. At that point, you can kind of figure out where you can cut back a little. You don't have to do it all at once. How I started budgeting, I learned how to budget at 25. I think I started with personal money at $250 and now I'm at like $40. And then with groceries, I think I started with $400, $300, and sometimes I spent like $140 a month. So don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah. Budgeting or being intentional with your money can come little by little. It doesn't have to be a all or nothing kind of deal from one day to the other. You're an expert at budgeting. But the reason why you need to know exactly how much is coming in, how much is going out, is so that you prevent from spending too much, which we can all be guilty of. After that, after you're done making sure that you have a set place for your money to go, after you know exactly what your obligations are and what your spending habits can be, then you go on to number 3. You always want to make sure that you're caught up on your 4 walls or your basic necessities. So that includes rent or mortgage, food. So rent, mortgage is shelter, food, clothing, and transportation, I believe. So shelter includes utilities as well. And I think internet, to be honest, is a utility, and it is very essential for many people nowadays, because that way you can use the internet to pay your bills and do a bunch of stuff. So make sure you're current on all your bills. If you're not current on all your bills, then you need to stop your Amazon Prime account. You need to stop your Hulu account. And you need to focus on what's essential. You can also go out and get food from food banks. There's food stamps as well. No shame in that. But you really want to set a strong financial base so that you're not living paycheck to paycheck. I used to go to food banks all the time with my mom when I was little. Churches have them all the time as well. And you can use that to get ahead on like your electricity bill instead of paying for food. And yeah, it's not fun not having food. Another component with having enough to pay your monthly bills is either lowering your expenses, which can usually, it's not easy, but it's easier than increasing your income sometimes, because there are single mothers out there who have kids who can't do daycare, or they don't have anyone to watch their kids, so they can't really go out to do Uber or things like that, you know? Maybe Instacart. But a lot of the times it's a lot easier to cut down on your spending, and if you can, go out and maybe possibly increase your income, because that will also make it easier. For some reason, I hate side hustles. I don't know what it is. It's like I already work hard enough at my day job. I need a break. I do YouTube for a hobby, mostly because it's a hobby and it was fun. And I started doing YouTube because when I started doing this, there weren't enough people budgeting out their income. I would finish a video and be like, where are the rest of the videos? So then I started doing my own. But yeah, I don't know. I hate side hustles. After you get current with your bills, you know exactly how much, you should know exactly how much you need to set aside for other essentials like groceries, transportation, gas, things like that. You want to focus on getting a month ahead. Number 4 is make sure to handle your starter emergency. Make sure to start saving for your starter emergency fund, all the while still paying your minimums on all your bills, paying for your basic necessities, your 4 walls. After that, yeah, I mean, I guess you could put a little aside for movies or books or things like that, a little aside. But aside from that, try to throw everything else you can into a starter emergency fund so that you can create a buffer. I suggest putting aside 1 month of essential expenses into a savings account so you're not always living paycheck to paycheck. I wouldn't recommend putting aside, like, say, $100 for next month's fun money. What I want you to do is set aside money for next month's rent, or a full month of rent, a full month of groceries, a full month of bills and minimums, so you're always current. Say, just calculate all that up, bare necessities again, no fun money, in that start emergency fund, and put it in a savings account. Once you're done with that component, then you can move on to the next step. Okay, so let's move on to number 5. Everything you were putting towards your starter emergency fund, now you can put towards paying down high interest debt. So that includes credit cards, all that stuff. You can even start paying down high interest debt. I think usually the only one I would say is okay to focus on, more so than savings sometimes, even more so than your starter emergency fund, is credit cards, because those interest rates can be killing you. So basically, after getting current, after setting up that buffer for yourself, what you want to do is pay down high interest debt. What I consider high interest debt is anything 5% and up. So a lot of the time that's going to include credit cards, or if you have a really high interest rate on your auto loan, student loans, things like that, I would just put everything towards paying down those debts. If your debt is below 5%, then at that point it's up to you whether you just want to pay the minimums. Some people are okay with paying monthly payments. I don't like having debt on my shoulder no matter what it is. It's just like you always have that obligation. So I'm one of those people that think the worst can happen. So I feel like, what if the worst can happen? You know, I don't have a job or something happens, and then it would really stink, on top of like all these horrible things happening, to still have to pay the bank monthly payments from something that I bought like 2 years ago. So I really hate that. So I try to not have too many monthly payments or finance things. And I really learned my lesson after I bought my house and sold it, that I just really don't like debt, even quote unquote good debt. Maybe in the future my mindset can change, or you know, I might want a different lifestyle than I have now. Everything can always change. Be open to change, but change for the better, not for the worst. Yeah, those are my I don't know where I was going with that. I think that was very inspirational, wasn't it? Anyway, so yeah, at that point it's up to you whether you want to after you're done with paying high interest debt, at that point it's up to you whether you want to pay down and just get rid of all debt that you have in general. But yeah, that was number 6, if I didn't mention it. After you're done with paying high interest debt, I would suggest next paying lower interest debt down, especially on depreciating assets like auto loans. But if you're okay with monthly payments, then that's fine. You can always focus that money into more investments, or saving up for long-term goals like a down payment on a house, or buying a new car in cash. But yeah, anyway, that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching. I really like this sweater. I might film another video with the same sweater. Bye. Oh, make sure to like and subscribe.